Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Americas. Coming up, a Canadian gardener accused of killing at least 6 people before burying parts of them in potted plants. More on the Toronto serial killer coming up. Then, a co-op for mobile phones is a breakthrough for thousands of rural Mexicans trying to stay in touch with their loved ones far away. And the mayor of Rio may have rained on the annual Carnival parade, but that hasn't kept some Samba lovers from fighting back. I'm Jeannie Godula. We'll start first in Canada with the sordid story of a serial killer in Toronto. The suspect is a landscape gardener who's been charged with the murder of 6 men. That's after police disinterred 6 bodies which had been buried in properties that were connected to the gardener. Investigators uncovered some of the human remains in potted plants and fear more victims may be found as well. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
January 31st, Canadian police searched this Toronto address, specifically the small outhouse where Bruce MacArthur kept his tools. The 66-year-old landscape gardener was arrested in mid-January, charged with the murders of 5 homosexual men.
We believe there are more victims. I can't give you any idea about a number, but I do expect more charges to be laid. We think we've got the right guy, and hopefully we've put this to rest. Obviously, there's a court process that has to be followed through.
Dismembered remains of at least 6 bodies have been discovered since. Last week, authorities announced that they were extending the investigation. They believe there could be other victims, particularly from the gay community, in other provinces in Canada and even abroad. In Toronto's so-called gay village neighbourhood, local people have been left shaken by the discoveries.
It's a horrible thing. You can't help but look at it. I know people are affected. A lot of people are scared.
Many here remember 49-year-old Andrew Kinsman. He was reported missing last June and had been involved with the suspected killer.
It's shocking. It's sad that it's come to this point to have the police really investigate. This should have been done earlier. I don't think they taken the missing men seriously.
More people are involved at the community level of bringing things to the police. There are groups in Toronto that are not taken seriously. They're not given power when they speak up.
Investigators are now searching the gardens of some 30 properties where MacArthur worked, amid fears that other bodies could be buried there. Personal computer and mobile phone data is also being studied by the police.
The U.S. made history twice this week at the Winter Games in Pyeongchang. First, Jordan Greenway became the first African-American to compete on a U.S. Olympic hockey team. The native New Yorker first put on skates aged 3. He's now a junior at Boston University, but he's already been drafted by a pro hockey team, the Minnesota Wild. Greenway says he's happy he's the first African-American hockey player in U.S. Olympic history and that he hopes he is the first of many. Then Mirai Nagasu became the first female American figure skater to nail the triple axel at the Olympics. Here she is training in a post she shared on Twitter last year. Nagasu became only the 3rd woman to successfully complete the triple axel at the Olympics, after 2 other Japanese skaters previously did one of the most difficult moves in skating. The axel's the only jump in which the skater takes to the air while facing forward, with 3.5 rotations before landing for a triple. And outspoken male figure skater Adam Rippon says he stands by his recent criticism of the U.S. Vice President's position on LGBT rights. As governor of Indiana, Mike Pence signed a law that let businesses refuse service to gay and lesbian customers, citing religious freedom. Rippon turned down a meeting with Pence earlier this week after criticizing him and his history with the LGBT community in an interview. The first openly gay skater to make Team USA says he doesn't want his Olympic experience to be all about Mike Pence. It's time now for our picture, or rather pictures, of the week. These are the new official portraits of former first couple Barack and Michelle Obama. They were unveiled this week at America's National Portrait Gallery. The Obamas each picked African-American painters for their portraits, adding bold artistic sensibility to the often conservative genre of presidential portraits. Brian Quinn has more.
A star-studded gala in Washington as the former first couple prepared to take their place in America's artistic canon, unveiling their portraits for the Smithsonian Institution on Monday. America's first black presidential couple each personally selected African-American artists to create their likenesses. For Michelle Obama, award-winning portraitist Amy Sherald. The former first couple noting they were the first people in their families ever to sit for a commissioned painting.
I'm also thinking about all of the young people, particularly girls and girls of color, who in years ahead will come to this place and they will look up and they will see an image of someone who looks like them hanging on the wall of this great American institution. Yeah.
The former president, painted by Kehinde Wiley, famous for his portraits of black men placed in opulent, regal settings, a tendency Obama joked he had to convince Wiley to forego.
So his initial impulse maybe in the work was to also elevate me and put me in these settings with, partridges and scepters and thrones. And I had to explain that I've got enough political problems without you making me look like Napoleon. We've got to bring it down just a touch.
The portraits will hang in the Hall of Presidents at the National Portrait Gallery. Their bold contemporary styles a marked contrast to the staid conservative style that dominates the genre.
Next to Mexico, where a new mobile phone co-op has transformed rural communities without any other network. It's up and running thanks to a legal triumph by Indigenous activists that cracked the monopoly of Mexico's powerful phone magnates. That opened the door to new services that slash the cost of communication, as our team in Mexico reports.
This is the story of the antenna that transformed a village. You can only get to Santiago Nuyu on dirt roads. It's not the kind of place big telephone companies care for. So people here set up their own network. An autonomous system for local communications and a way to rent phone calls to further afield from an independent provider. Here's the head technician, Pedro Nicolás. When he's not tending to his farm, it's his job to run the solar-powered antenna. Would you rather a big company had come and set up the service?
No, because they would keep the money for themselves.
And that's the difference. From the 42 pesos each subscriber pays monthly, less than around €2, 25 are paid back into the village and 17 go to TIC, the organisation that helped them set up the network.
Bueno.
Hello, how are you?
Buenos días.
It's a small revolution for this village who'd never had access to a cellular network.
Local youngsters explained to us how to use these devices because we had no idea.
Sebastian can now chat with his son, who lives in the US, without the fear of a big phone bill. He'll just pay a bit extra for this call, less than €1 penny.
The line is quite unstable, but yes, the call reached Denver, Colorado.
800 residents have already signed up here, and similar networks have been set up in 18 villages around the state of Oaxaca. It took years to get the technical requirements sorted for this. And getting isolated communities on board hasn't been easy.
At the beginning, they didn't think it was possible. It was hard to make them consider the option. They were telling us, we don't understand which company is sending you. And we were telling them, none. You are the operators.
It took a legal battle to get permission to use a frequency without paying the same hefty fees as the big telecommunication firms. Now, through demonstrating the social benefits of the networks, TIC is in the process of getting an operating agreement from the government.
We have a phone manual for the community and free access to the software. There are about 50,000 villages without network across the country. If we manage to set it up within the next 10 years, we'll be really happy.
TIC doesn't want to take on the big companies, but they are determined not to be driven solely by profit. They hope that by focusing on complementing existing networks, not competing with them, they'll be able to work their way into every nook and cranny of Mexico's mountains.
Our Inside the Americas number of the week is a big one, 6 million. That's the number of partygoers expected at the annual Carnival in Brazil. This year, however, the mayor of Rio decided to rain on the Samba parade, but that didn't keep many Carnival lovers from fighting back. Our correspondents report.
It is Rio's shop window. Carnival earns the city millions in tourism. But Mayor Marcelo Crivella, a bishop in an evangelical church, declared war on those who put on the parade. He halved the funding of the Samba schools. One of the most popular schools, Mangueira, has hit back.
Our parade will include an effigy of Crivella in the form of Judas that people can hit.
An insult broadcast live to millions on TV Global. In the streets, the anger also rises. Ocupa Carnival is a politicised street orchestra, or bloco. This year, their main target is the mayor.
He asked those attending not to drink. It's typical of his religion. It frowns on consuming alcohol. It's conservative towards women and their bodies. It has strict rules on sex, and Carnival is the opposite of this.
But early in the morning, on Copacabana Beach, Bola Genevi, an evangelical bloco, comes to make its carnival, proclaiming a very different message. At the head of this procession, a minister, like Crivella.
Studies show that after Carnival, the indicators of criminality, death on the roads, violence, unwanted pregnancies, which often end in abortion, all increase. The role of the church is to be here in the middle of this party where everybody tries to have fun, to offer Jesus as the best option.
Marcelo Crivella is in office until 2020. He can count Carnival among his strongest opponents.
And while the Carnival in Brazil may be the biggest, New Orleans would say its Mardi Gras celebration is the best. Now, it is a state holiday in Louisiana that brings in 1 million visitors and pumps close to $840 million into the economy of New Orleans. We'll leave you with a look at their 160-year-old tradition to let you decide the one you like best. See you next time.